Yo, what's up guys? Bella recently got a buff, and her multiplier on the S4 used to be an 8.2 multiplier on just pure attack. But now it's a multiplier on attack and speed, so let's see how much this actually can do. It's also really weird, but her skill 1 and skill 2 are really asking, yo, go additional damage artifacts, whereas her skill 4 right now is pure on crit rate and crit damage. So she's kind of having a very inconsistent kit, which is kind of weird. Also, her base stats are a lot more focusing on adding more crit rate, crit damage on her, rather than going for multi-hits on skill 1 and skill 2. So let's see if we make a nuker Bella. Is it usable in Siege or maybe even RTA as a nuker kind of playstyle? So of course we're going to be shooting at our good old Nigong because that's what we always tend to do. And let's actually add in the Bella, and let's first go for a typical set that you would run in RTA. So just a common typical set that used to be the way of running her. So that's just a lot of additional damage with a little bit of accuracy. Something along the lines of this is what you normally use to run on her. And then let's also add in the additional damage artifacts. Maybe something along the lines of this. I would say more additional damage by HP would probably do a little bit more, but... So just for the idea of it, let's see how much damage this is dealing right now. So if we go for this, if we just right away hit a skill 4 burst cannon, how much damage are we dealing? 7k damage. And then all of those multi-hits are just looking around like 2-ish k damage or something along those lines. If we right away start off with a skill 2, how much damage is this per hit? Yeah, like about 2k damage, which is just the fuel pure on the additional damage artifact. Also, it's not really on Vio right now, and you probably have pointed it out. I wanted to write that in the comments, but doesn't really matter for this showcase anyways. But let's change that to a crit rate 4, and then also make it where the crit rate 4 is actually fully crit rated over here. So we actually do have full maxed out crit rate, and before we're going into a shenanigans that we just had before as well, let's just add it like this. So we have a lot more crit rate focus stats right now, and this is probably something more along the lines of what you want to use in RTA at the moment. So let's see how much damage this would be dealing on a just a normal hit with the skill. So the skill 2, how much damage are we dealing? Still kind of close-ish, but we lost about 6k HP. So that's definitely the miss what you have over there for a little bit lower damage output too. But let's see how much more damage are we dealing on this one. Still 7k. Okay, I guess we did crit on the previous one as well. Therefore, we did get a 7k already. And yeah, that doesn't really change anything. But let's say we get an armor break. Get me a provider for an armor break. Let's start using this one already, but we're just not gonna attack buff. We're just gonna armor break it first. And make him fast enough that he actually does outspeed. So we're just gonna ask one in this case, just to get the feeling of like, hey, on an armor break, how much damage are we actually dealing in that case? So if we get just an armor break and we go for a skill 4, how much damage are we dealing right now? 15k damage. It is a tanky unit by all means, but that's nothing really crazy. Like even in the follow-up on the 5-shot after, it's not that bad, but it's also nothing too super crazy because you need the strip and the death break as the setup. But how much do we get with a attack buff and a defense break in this case? Let's see how much damage we're dealing then. And then we're going to up it even more to, let's say, how much damage can we deal if we go for a speed buff in there? So that was 23k if I didn't miss that. This thing does seem to proc in every given turn. That's actually where you do take out a unit pretty quick. So 23k is not worst of numbers, I would say. Yeah, I would say 23k is definitely not bad on a relatively tanky unit. But attack buff and armor break, you do need to have like some kind of setup with a defense breaker and potentially like a Joe gun or anything like that. But let's take that even to a next level. Let's say that we also added in a Asher or something like that, and then we also have the speed buff. In this case, we're going to go for the lazy version, and we're just going to give speed buff by this thing. Hopefully not too fast, of course, always too fast. Let's also, for the sake of it, just give it an attack buff, because we're kind of testing right now anyways. So let's see what we do over here right now. So we go for a speed buff, attack buff. We go for a defense break. Okay, no defense break on that thing. Let's just see without the defense break how much. 14k. Okay, we definitely do need that defense break, especially if you're speed scaling. You do really want to get defense breaks in, otherwise you're just not dealing that much damage. So let's see once again. Defense break, everything. Yes, sir. How much damage are we looking at? 32k. That's pretty. And yeah, this unit, some units seem to be proccing more often. This is one of those, it seems. That's already a good bit more damage. But now let's actually lean more into the damage from itself. So We are on a crit rate 4 right now. For crit rate 4, those are definitely not bad numbers, but let's actually add in more crit damage from itself. So we're going to go crit damage more and crit damage more. And let's just see how much we deal with this. Keep in mind, we're still on a Vio and a crit rate build. We're not on a crit damage build. Crit damage build would have definitely done a lot more damage. But I think the moment we go towards crit damage build, I might also just go towards a Swift build, because then she becomes a nuker rather than a bruiser unit. So 38k, that is not bad damage at all. I can definitely see that being used for, and she, like I said, like she feels like she's proccing every goddamn turn. Like, holy hell, she is proccing every goddamn turn. But now we tested a few things like that. Let's actually put her to a proper real test with a really good damage set. So let's say we make her into a nuker on a team where, well, we don't maybe have this, but we have a nuker for her where we use her in a siege offense. So maybe something along the lines of this. Bit high on, well, pretty much all stats, I guess. Not super speedy, but let's see how much this already does if we go for a crit damage set with more of a nuking style set. We're actually a bit slower, so speed scaling might actually do more damage on her. Okay, let's see what kind of hit we can do. 72k into a, wow. Okay, that a nuke and a half right there. Holy. Only thing is, in a scenario of 3 units, can you get a speed buff and an attack buff and then also a defense break? That's a little bit more difficult, because then you would be looking at a strip that provides a speed buff. I don't think any of those are out there. Or any kind of other scenario where it would kind of work. Or you have to bet that there's no defense break or anything along those lines. But also just for the idea of it, what if there's no defense break? So no defense break, and then we go for a hit like this, because I think we already do a good amount of damage on just a no defense break setup right now. So how much damage are we dealing? 30k. Okay, I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest. So it's not something like, let's say, a Sonya or a Rigna or anything like that, where you just say like, okay, speed buff, attack buff, straight up nuke, you're done. You definitely do still want that defense break in there. But I would say not too bad damage altogether. But is she really usable? Did she become like an RTA unit? I think she's too glass cannon to become an RTA unit. She might be something where you would just use her in siege. So let's put the 3 of them together in a siege hit, and let's see how that works. Okay, let's try it on one of the tankiest things we can find right away. Of course, the big question, can she kill anything in this? Like, that would be a difficult task. I also do think that attack increasing effect, no, actually, she might not be that much scaling on attack right now, so I think we're kind of fine with the runes as is. Let's see if she can kill anything, because killing the Byunchul especially will be really difficult. So we also did miss a few. Can we kill the Byunchul with this? 41k, that's a tanky as hell Byunchul. That's a no. That's a very tanky Byunchul, holy shit. Let's try one on the other two. Maybe they are a little bit easier to just straight up kill. Okay, we go for this. We hit this. 67k, not bad. And then we go for 41k as the bounce, which is not bad, which does also lower your damage output by a good bit. But then we still have the issue of the other units being, damagey-ish. Not bad damage for skill 1 neither. We actually lowered the damage output from the Byunchul by that much that it actually works kind of well. Like, that's the thing. You do have to destroy part if you don't fully kill. And this is actually a team which is meant to outspeed other units with speed lead. So that is not too bad of damage, to be honest. Well, let's try that on a comp that we can outspeed. In this case, I do know that I do outspeed these because this is my own team right there. And let's see how much damage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we would instantly kill 2 units. So in this case, if we throw that burst cannon on you, good 80k, and this will do 66k. Wow, that's actually really good because that instantly kills 2 units. I think she might be really good for that. Trying it on another team, once again, a Byunchul team. A little bit less of a full-on tank Byunchul right there this time around. So it's definitely, it's that you cannot control where the bounce goes, because if you can do the bounce on the 2 damage dealers and you only have like a support left over, it would be best out there, of course. But let's see how much we get over there. So, okay, we do get that hit in, but since he, yeah, that's actually not too bad at all. Was it a little bit tricky if they actually used their proper skills or proper procs? Yeah, I would say so, but let's actually see. I'm not sure what the interaction is with a Kinky. Is it like a Pungbi kind of thing where you also fully hit as much on one as you did on the other? I'm not too sure about that. Okay, Galleon, calm down. Okay, branding with that. With the branding, 82k. That is so freaking much damage. Yeah, this will be nullified. I was kind of hoping it would have went for the Kinky. Would have been the one that I wanted to try out. But in this case, Tiana Showcase. Not so Tiana's Showcase. But yeah, it's an interesting unit. I'm not really sure if this is the identity that Kanto has had in mind for her to be like, yo, you have to be using her like this as more of a nuker rather than the additional damage artifact, which we always have been doing. But she does provide good enough damage where she can absolutely kill 2 targets if there is a defense break and an attack buff. She doesn't even need the speed buff on it that much. There's a good bit of damage on that. That's absolutely true. And it's definitely helping that she's speed scaling right now. But yeah, as mentioned, is this really the identity that Kantos was looking for her for just making her a nuker in Siege? Maybe a nuker in Arena Offense? Or is that something where I'm not sure if anyone has been using that. Let me see if that someone has been playing that in Special League, because in Special League, it's easier to play speedy comps because of Leo ban. Actually, I'm surprised. Why is no one playing this with like an Asher, Adriana, Sonya, Rigna, those kind of things? Well, let me actually search for the double up. So I want to see all of them where we also use an Adriana. Yeah, that's more the comp that I was thinking of. So you go for a Vanessa, you go into Adriana, Bella, and then you go Sonya and those kind of things. Not sure if your enemy outspeeds you. Not really. The Magoomer. Is the Magoomer going to be annoying? Okay. So all eyes on the Bella right now. Can the Bella one-shot something? Because I would assume that this is a speedy Bella. Okay. Does go for these things. That's still fine. Doesn't go for any skill right there. Goes for the Sanctuary. Still fine. And let's see how much damage... Wait, doesn't go for the S4. Why would you not go for the S4? I think the S4 would have killed over there. Well, we can also do that with a Tableau. Like Tableau, similar thing. Chandra's kind of out of the... position, bans a Leo, that's good. Just not really liking the Chandra over here. Let's see how much damage we are dealing, because the only damage actually does come from the Bella in this case, so let's see. Also goes for skill 2. Why do people go for skill 2 and not for skill 4? Am I missing something? Go for skill 4, because I think your skill 4 does a lot more. No, 17k. You really need your defense break to actually kill, huh? Or maybe it's still like a violent kind of build. Like in this case, you really want to go for heavy speedy damage comp. But apparently there's not that many people playing this shit, because probably it does not really work. So I assume that it's just not that great. Maybe it's just more of an arena offense slash siege offense, and then I would even say more siege offense, because then the bounce at least happens on one of the 2 targets rather than one of the 3 targets. Let me know in the comments what you think about Bella, but I definitely don't think she's making a comeback into RTA with this kind of buff. She's definitely more a siege unit by looking like this. Either way, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I see you as always in the next one. In the Discord, and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.